Explain that to me.
All right. Because of the JDIC deposit insurance scheme, once you put your money into a financial institution like a bank or building society, you can get coverage of up to a maximum of $1.2 million per deposit of your financial institution if it should fail. And for even more information, you can visit their new website at www.jdic.org, and you can follow the social media platforms for the latest information.
JDIC, protecting deposits for you and me.
Introducing the Corporate Services Unit, your go-to experts for corporate secretarial solutions. We offer statutory compliance, efficient minute taking, registered office address services, management of board and members meetings, setup and maintenance of corporate registers. Stay ahead with our proactive approach to new regulations. We operate under the Trust and Corporate Service Provider, licensed to the JCSD Trustee Services Limited. We're here to simplify your corporate journey, no matter the size of your company. Contact the Corporate Service Unit today and let's streamline your compliance journey together, because your success is our business.
It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Don't never ever ever wanna calm down. No, no,
The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with a warning for Jamaica's financial sector. Cybersecurity is back in sharp focus this week following revelations of a Google Salesforce breach. While there's no evidence Jamaican businesses have been directly targeted, the JN Group says the risk for financial institutions lies in customer data exposure, and vigilance is now the first line of defense. Our reporter Rondine Williams has been tracking this story.
On Wednesday, the Jane Group issued a public alert, raising fresh concerns over the fallout from Google's recent Salesforce data breach. The company urged Gmail users to be extra vigilant after the breach exposed sensitive business contact details that attackers could exploit. Cybersecurity executive at JN Dwayne Brown explained that criminals are already using the leaked information to craft convincing phishing emails, in some cases even posing as Google support staff. He urged Jamaicans to protect their accounts by updating passwords, enabling two-factor authentication, and adopting passkeys to guard against those evolving threats.
Maintaining strong security habits is the most effective defense against cyber attacks. Regularly changing your passwords while keeping them unique to you, enabling 2FA or two-factor authentication, and using passkeys with fingerprint or facial recognition makes your account far more resistant to phishing and other common forms of attacks.
In a follow-up interview with CBX Business News earlier today, the JN Group confirmed that no phishing campaigns linked to the breach have been detected locally. But the institution warned that cybercriminals now armed with artificial intelligence are refining attacks to steal credentials, deliver ransomware, and to carry out business email compromise schemes. For Jamaican financial institutions, the greatest danger lies in customer data exposure, a risk that could undermine trust across the sector. That's why the Jane Group says it shares monthly cybersecurity updates to keep members, customers, and Jamaicans everywhere informed and vigilant. The message is unmistakable. Cyber attacks are evolving, Vigilance is not just optional, it is the first line of defense. Rondine Williams for CBX News.
Thanks, Rondine. The National Commercial Bank Jamaica Limited NCB, in partnership with Visa, has rolled out a new campaign aimed at strengthening support for Jamaica's small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs. The initiative, branded the Visa Business Boost, was officially launched at a reception last evening at the AC Marriott Hotel in Kingston. Speaking at the launch, the bank's Executive Vice President of Retail Banking, Perrin Gale, says this campaign, which runs until October 31, 2025, gives NCB Visa Business credit card holders the chance to win their share of over $3 million in cash prizes.
NCB is committed to supporting our SMEs and building a better Jamaica. And what better way to do this than giving back cash to our business customers? So we are giving away $3.5 million in prizes that all you have to do is use your NCB Visa business card in order to be eligible.
He also underscored the central role SMEs play in Jamaica's economy, reaffirming the bank's commitment to their growth.
Supporting SMEs is important to building a better Jamaica because our SMEs form the backbone of our economy. They employ the largest number of persons and cover a wide cross-section of our economy. So it's really important as Jamaica's largest bank to ensure that we support our SMEs towards building a better Jamaica.
That was NCB's Executive Vice President of Retail Banking, Perrin Gale. In other news, Alliance Financial Services Limited, AFSL, has entered into a partnership with Ria Money Transfer, one of the world's largest cross-border payment providers. AFSL, a member of Sagicor Group Jamaica and regulated by the Bank of Jamaica, says the deal will expand choices for Jamaicans sending and receiving funds overseas. RIA operates in 200 countries and territories. Its network includes more than 631,000 locations, access to 4.1 billion bank accounts, and billions of wallets and Visa debit cards. CEO of AFSL, Omar Brown, says the partnership reflects the company's commitment to trusted, convenient, and reliable remittance options. Meanwhile, RIA's America's chief, Rosario Escarpita, says the move will bring more convenience to Jamaicans while also driving economic growth across the region. AFSL already serves as MoneyGram's primary agent in Jamaica. With RIA on board, customers now have more flexibility in choosing transfer providers. The company operates 6 branches in Kingston, Portmore, Maypen, Mandeville, and Montego Bay, plus 96 agent locations island-wide. AFSL says it will continue to focus on digital innovation and strategic partnerships to reach more Jamaicans at home and abroad. We go now to updates from the Bank of Jamaica on how the currency markets traded today. In Friday's currency trading session, the US dollar is selling for $161.52, the Canadian for $119.09, the pound sterling for $218.40, while the going rate for the euro is $192.99. We move to the latest updates from the JSE equities markets. In Friday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 111 stocks, of which 43 advanced, 42 declined, and 26 traded firm. Leading the winners are Iron Rock Insurance Company, Margaritaville Turks, Sterling Investments, and 138 Student Living Jamaica. While leading the losers are ISP Finance Services, MFS Capital Partners, R.A. Williams Distributors, and Cygnus Credit Investments Limited, JMD Ordinary Shares. The main index advanced by 1,284.45 points, or 0.41%, to close at 317,959.92 points. The junior market index declined by 21.97 points, or 0.65% to close at 3,367.48 points.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
In today's Market Education Feature, we will be discussing deficits. A deficit arises when expenditures surpass income, imports outweigh exports, or liabilities exceed assets. It represents a shortfall or loss and stands in contrast to a surplus. A deficit can happen when a government, business, or individual spends more than it earns over a specific period, typically within a year. Whether at the personal, corporate, or governmental level, operating at a deficit decreases any existing surplus or increases the current debt burden. Because of this, many believe that sustained deficits are not viable in the long run.
The Market Education Feature was brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
I'm trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
I'm also trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Check jamstockx.com for information and a list of registered stockbrokers. You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin. I am achieving my financial goals.
I'm achieving my financial goals.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. The Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, is warning that the region's limited export diversity is creating severe exposure to external economic turbulence. Speaking at the second wider Caribbean Regional Risk Conference in Barbados, CDB Acting Vice President for Corporate Services, Ian Durant, says tourism accounts for more than half of foreign exchange earnings in 5 of the bank's 19 borrowing member countries, while another 7 rely on tourism for more than 30%. Durant cautioned that this overdependence presents a serious risk because tourism is highly elastic, with demand dropping sharply during global downturns. Our countries are small, open economies with no reserve currencies. The limited diversity in our export mix results in acute vulnerability, he explained. The CDB executive argued that the solution lies in improving competitiveness to diversify exports. He pointed to the CARICOM 25 by 25 plus 5 initiative, seeking to cut regional food exports, rather imports, by 25% by 2030 as a practical step. Success, he noted, will depend on investments in infrastructure, farm extension services, sanitary standards, transportation, and cold storage, as well as greater credit access for small businesses and modernized port operations. Meanwhile, as the Caribbean Development Bank warns of the region's over-reliance on tourism, St. Lucia is betting on a record-breaking cruise season. Authorities are forecasting the highest number of cruise ship arrivals in the island's history this year. Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for housing and local government, Richard Frederick, says the government has moved to strengthen the country's tourism product through infrastructure and development projects.
This government has been on a drive to improve our tourism product, given the fact that our foreign exchange, tourism is the backbone of our foreign exchange. And we need to ensure that whatever we provide for visitors and obviously locals alike is top-notch.
He says that the government expects thousands of cruise visitors this season, which he says will create opportunities for micro and small businesses across the island.
The government is creating a holistic environment to actually ensure that when visitors come here, they spend some money and that there's an economy that occurs within the tourism sector that permits each and every vendor in this country, each and every taxi driver to make a dollar. We are expecting this season a bumper cruise arrivals. We're expecting thousands and thousands of tourists in.
That was Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for housing and local government, Richard Frederick. And the Bahamas is pressing ahead with its digital currency ambitions. Governor of the Central Bank, John Roll, used Tuesday's CBDC conference in Nassau to highlight how the sand dollar is reshaping the country's payments landscape. Sand dollar is the digital version of the Bahamian dollar. Like cash, sand dollar is issued by the Central Bank of the Bahamas through authorized financial institutions. Roll says the sand dollar is now being built into a new fast payments platform, with all banks, credit unions, and electronic money providers required to participate. Even the government will be a direct player. The push is driven by three goals: to expand access to digital payments across remote islands, to build resilience when hurricanes disrupt cash services, and to safeguard the Bahamas' global banking links by reducing financial crime risks. The governor stressed that central bank digital money must be treated as a public good, with interoperability and security at its core. He also pointed to regional opportunities, noting the Bahamas' role in a new CARICOM pilot to lower cross-border transaction costs. The Bahamas was the first country in the world to launch a retail CBDC, and officials say the lessons learned are now shaping global debates. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 18 securities, of which 6 advanced, 9 declined, and 3 traded firm. Today's winners are A.S. Bryden & Sons Holdings, L.J. Williams B., National Flour Mills, and Republic Financial Holdings, while leading the losers are Massey Holdings, Anson McCall, Eric Solis Marketing, and One Caribbean Media. Trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All-TNT Index declined by 15.53 points to close at 1,408.11. The Composite Index declined by 7.77 points to close at 976.92. The Cross-Listed Index advanced by 0.09 points to close at 72.18. The SME Index declined by 0.02 points to close at 100.65. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
Let's all get fit. This summer set drip. Hip dips and split. For in the mind, let's get healthy with it. Sometimes the body's so hard. gets out like this. So we gotta go 1, 2, 3. One more now. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. One more now. 1, 2, 3. One more now. 1, 2, 3, go.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. In the international news today, the UK economy stalled in July of 2025, posting zero growth from the previous month, in line with expectations and marking a slowdown from the 0.4% expansion in June, according to official data released this week. Growth in the services sector was modest at 0.1%, buoyed by strength in transportation and storage, up 1.4%, and health and social work, up 0.4%. However, a 0.7% drop in information and communication services dragged on the overall performance. Construction output rose 0.2%, led by gains in private housing repair 2.4% and new housing 1.2%. But these were offset by a 0.9% contraction in production, driven by a sharp 1.3% fall in manufacturing. Within manufacturing, electronics down 7% and pharmaceuticals down 4.5% were the key drags, though there was some offset from electrical equipment production, which was up 3.3%. Outputting mining, quarrying, and utilities also declined, while water supply saw a modest increase. Looking at the broader trend, the UK GDP grew 0.2% over the 3 months to July, with services up 0.4% and construction rising 0.6%, both partially offset by a 1.3% drop in industrial production. On a year-to-year basis, GDP expanded 1.4%, matching June's pace, but falling just short of consensus forecasts of a 1.5% rise. The data highlights continued sectorial imbalances and underlying economic fragility amid a challenging global backdrop. New won loans in China rose by just 589 billion won in August, significantly below both market expectations of 800 billion and 900 billion issued during the same period last year, marking the lowest August loan issuance since 2011. The weak figures highlight a sluggish credit demand despite ongoing efforts by the People's Bank of China (PBOC) to loosen monetary policy through lower interest rates and increase liquidity injections. Analysts say persistently weak consumer confidence and a prolonged property sector crisis are continuing to weigh on the borrowing activity. Meanwhile, aggregate financing, a broader gauge of credit and liquidity in the economy, came in at 2.57 trillion won, slightly ahead of expectations for the 2.46 trillion, but down sharply from the 3.03 trillion a year earlier. A slower pace of government bond issuance also contributed to the drag on credit growth, as Beijing's cautious stance on infrastructure and industrial capacity constrained funding demand for new public and manufacturing projects. The data underscores the limited traction of recent stimulus measures, adding pressure on Chinese policymakers to deploy more targeted support amid rising concerns about the sustainability of the country's economic recovery. Canada's industrial capacity utilization rate slipped to 79.3% in Q2, down from a revised 79.9% in the previous quarter, though still above the market expectations of 78.8%. The decline reflects sluggish activity across key resource sectors, including energy and manufacturing. In the mining, quarrying, and oil and gas extraction sector, utilization fell by 1 percentage point to 75.9% as wildfires and planned maintenance disrupted oil and gas production. Utilities capacity used dropped more sharply, falling 2.9 percentage points to 83.1, largely due to dry weather conditions limiting the hydroelectric generation. The manufacturing sector also saw a decline, with utilization down 0.7 percentage points to 76.7. The decrease was led by notable slowdowns in petroleum and coal products, down 5.2 percentage points, and food manufacturing, down 2.6 percentage points. The data suggests ongoing headwinds for Canadian industries, particularly in energy and resource-linked sector, amid broader concerns over economic momentum heading into the second half of the year. WTI crude futures climbed over 1.5% to $63.50 per barrel on Friday, driven by escalating supply concerns after a Ukrainian drone strike disrupted operations at Russia's Primorsk port, the country's largest oil export terminal. The attack, one of Ukraine's most significant to date, reportedly forced a suspension of loading at Primorsk and pumping at the UST Luga terminal, though the full extent of the damage remains unverified. Satellite imagery showed 2 tankers still docked, while officials said a fire on a vessel was quickly contained. The incident adds to growing geopolitical risks in oil markets, even as the International Energy Agency IEA projected a rise in global supply for 2025. The increase is expected to come largely from OPEC+, with Saudi Arabia set to boost exports to China to 1.65 million barrels per day in October. Despite rising supply, Russia's oil revenues in August fell to near record lows, and exports from its Kozmino port are also expected to decline, compounding concerns over its long-term capacity to maintain shipments. Meanwhile, broader market sentiment was supported by expectations of a U.S. Federal Reserve rate cut after weaker than expected U.S. economic data, which could help stimulate demand. This comes even as U.S. crude inventories rose by 3.9 million barrels, signaling potential near-term softness in consumption. OPEC, for its part, maintained its demand growth forecast for 2025 and 2026, reinforcing a longer-term bullish outlook despite ongoing volatility. And those were your international business stories. After the break, do rejoin us for your recap.
How may I assist you today?
I want to open an account for me and my son.
That's great. Let me see your documents. I understand you want to know about our savings account. Let me show you a few accounts and the benefits of each account.
Why do you need so many documents from my mommy?
It's called KYC, Know Your Customer. This helps us to protect you and treat you right. Thanks for the documents. Take a look at this brochure. Let's discuss savings accounts. A savings account is an interest-bearing deposit account. Customers with savings deposit accounts are covered up to $1.2 million per ban, so you don't have anything to worry about.
This financial literacy tip is brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, promoting financial inclusion. For more information, visit our BOJ Real Talk playlist on our YouTube channel.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, cyber threats rise. JN Group says no threats detected locally, but urges vigilance to protect financial sector. Regionally, CDB warns tourism dependence leaves Caribbean economies exposed to global shocks. And internationally, UK economy stalls in July as manufacturing weighs on growth. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rochelle Moncrief. Thank you for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.
Hi, I'm Cherie Williams, founder and CEO at Vika. You're watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.
Giselle Riley here, wishing CBX a happy anniversary. Thank you for sharing the news that people need and want to hear. Here's to many, many more years to come.